Imagine hitting the open roads and finding empty land stretching to the horizons. It's like the whole world forgot these places exist. But why? Why are entire states across America practically ghost towns? There's a lot of different reasons. Some states have never had a growth spurt. Today we're looking at 10 states that not many people have ever wanted to move to. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Iowa, the land of corn and not much else. Iowa is a Midwestern state struggling to keep its residents. While it has friendly communities and a low-cost living, the lack of job diversity and entertainment makes it unappealing for most young professionals. That's their biggest problem. Young people from Iowa want to leave, and not many from outside of Iowa ever dream of moving there. Iowa's economy is heavily reliant on agriculture and manufacturing. But these industries are vulnerable to automation and economic downturns. Outside of Des Moines and a few college towns, career opportunities are extremely limited, forcing many residents to look elsewhere for work. Then there's the weather. Bitterly cold winters, hot humid summers, and unpredictable storms make for a tough climate to live in. The state is also prone to flooding, which can devastate communities and farmlands. And like I said, lack of entertainment. With no mountains, beaches, or major metropolitan areas, Iowa doesn't have much for those looking for adventure or culture. If you love quaint small towns, this might be the ideal spot for you. And the reality is, in general, this is one of the only states that don't mind outsiders showing up to their small towns, because a lot of their small towns are dying. It's so bad they have programs for you to buy land for next to nothing around the smaller communities of Iowa. The people are friendly, the crime rate is low, and the cost of living is affordable. But for those seeking adventure, career growth, and an exciting social scene, Iowa remains one of America's most overlooked and abandoned states. Number 9, Wyoming, where wind outnumbers the people. Imagine living in a place where your closest neighbor is miles away. Sounds peaceful, right? Well, in Wyoming, that isolation comes at a cost. Despite its breathtaking landscapes and wide open spaces, nobody seems to want to live here. Wyoming is officially the least populated state in America, with just over 587,000 residents, spread out across a landmass larger than the United Kingdom. Now, I brought this up in a whole video devoted to Wyoming's underpopulation problem. Back in the early days when settlers were moving west, the land and the climate were a little less inviting to people looking for a new life. The terrain was rough, the weather was horrible, and it really wasn't ideal for farming, which a lot of the people moving west were looking for, farmland. So as they've moved west, they just pass by Wyoming, end up in Idaho, Washington, or Oregon. And when a state gets a slow start like that, or any place, a city, it takes a while for it to catch up if it ever does. It's a great state, very appealing in a lot of different ways. It's just, it got a slow start. So what are the other reasons it's so empty? Well, there's 3 big reasons: jobs, weather, and remoteness. The state relies heavily on coal, oil, and natural gas, industries that have taken a major hit in recent years. When jobs disappear, people follow, especially the younger generations. And then there's the winters. All states have their problem with weather. Some states are too hot, some states are too humid, but it's the cold states that really slow growth for just about any place. Wyoming's weather is unforgiving, with temperatures dropping below zero and blizzards shutting down entire towns for days at a time. The wind here is relentless, often reaching hurricane force speeds, making an already freezing winter feel even worse. I was in the military with a guy from Wyoming. He said he remembers a couple different times pulling basically a little ice cube out of his nostril. He also told a really good story about taking a young lady out to the woods in his truck when he was in high school, looking up and there was a moose like 2 feet away from his window staring at him. He said it totally destroyed the mood. In Wyoming, if you don't have a sturdy home and a good supply of firewood, you might find yourself in a survival situation. Then, of course, you have the supervolcano. Yeah, that could be a problem. Apparently, underneath Yellowstone, which Wyoming is part of, or Yellowstone's part of Wyoming, it's a giant supervolcano that could blow up at any time. You know that old fateful thing, the geyser? It wasn't really just a landmark and something cool to see. It's been sort of a warning sign. And let's take a look at the social environment. Wyoming's small population means limited social life. Outside of Cheyenne and Casper, most of the towns are tiny, with little in the way of entertainment or amenities. If you're looking for a nightlife, bustling communities, and diverse dining options, Wyoming's probably not the place for you. Even basic services like hospitals, shopping centers, and outlet malls can be hours away, making daily life more of a challenge than an adventure. On the bright side, if you like to be alone, maybe a little isolation, you're dodging subpoenas, like hiking, skiing, and wildlife watching, this could be the perfect place for you. One thing to keep in mind about the whole isolation thing, the two states that I would say have the most isolation, Wyoming and Alaska, are also number 1 and 2 when it comes to people pushing their own off button permanently. Number 8, North Dakota. More cows than people. North Dakota, the land of endless prairies, friendly folks, and approximately one blizzard away from turning into the Antarctic. If you've ever wondered why this state is so empty, well, let's take a little trip through the reasons. Just don't forget your thermal underwear. First thing you need to know about North Dakota is winter is trying to kill you. Yes, it is. The locals may tell you it's not really that big of a deal. It's a big deal. Talk to someone that lived there maybe 2 or 3 years, and they'll tell you stories about the winter in the same manner that a guy that survived D-Day will tell you his experience. The weather in North Dakota doesn't just get cold, it gets why did I choose to live here cold. Temperatures can plunge to minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit, with wind chill that'll freeze your eyelashes shut. Snowstorms don't just pass through, they move in, make themselves comfortable, and refuse to leave for days at a time. Sort of like a squatter. Roads disappear, schools shut down, and power outages turn homes into ice boxes. At some point, you have to wonder, are humans even supposed to live here? There are tons of videos on YouTube of people in North Dakota dealing with the winter. And if you want to see a little more interesting and entertaining version of that, watch the movie Fargo. You'll think, oh wow, this is Hollywood. This isn't that bad. Yeah, it is. And the population, it's like non-existent. If you like social interaction, North Dakota might not be your scene. The biggest city, Fargo, has about 130,000 people, roughly the same population as a single neighborhood in Los Angeles. Outside of a few small towns, it's just miles and miles of nothing. Picture endless highways, empty fields, and the occasional confused cow staring at you. Nightlife, entertainment, restaurants that stay open past 9, you're in the wrong state, my friend. Then there's the housing. You'd think with open land, housing would be dirt cheap. And in some places it is, assuming that you don't mind your nearest neighbor being about 5 miles away. But if you want to live anywhere where there's a job and at least a grocery store, prices can be surprisingly high. The oil boom caused rents to spike in certain towns, and they never fully went back to normal. So you either pay the big city prices in a tiny town, or you just live out in the middle of nowhere with nothing but tumbleweeds for company. The job market, or lack thereof, at one point the oil boom had people flooding into North Dakota for higher paying jobs. Then reality hit. Oil production slowed, layoffs happened, and suddenly all those folks who had moved here for work left, wondering what to do next. Farming is still a big deal, but unless you have a passion for wheat and tractors, job opportunities are pretty slim. It's no wonder so many college graduates get their degree and flee the state immediately, literally, to anywhere else. Why would people live here is the first thing you're asking yourself. Despite it all, North Dakota has its charms. People are genuinely nice, the crime rate is ridiculously low, and if you love peace and quiet, it doesn't get much quieter than this. So if you ever find yourself in North Dakota, enjoy the scenery, wave at a cow, and make sure you pack enough layers to survive the winter. Otherwise, you'll understand why people admire this state from a safe distance. Number 7, South Dakota, home of Mount Rushmore, and that's about it. This state is more than just 4 giant heads, but not much more. South Dakota hasn't seen any double-digit growth in a census since the 1910 census. Most years they only grow by about 6 or 7%, with a few years where they actually lost population. In that 1910 census, they only had 583,000 residents. Right now, they only have 886,000, so a little over 300,000 more people than over 100 years ago. So why aren't people moving to South Dakota? I mean, it is beautiful, but what's holding them back? First of all, it's going to be the weather. South Dakota's climate is best described as choose your own disaster. Winter, you got blizzards that turn your car into a frozen tomb. Summers, scorching heat that makes you question your life choices. Spring and fall, tornadoes might just redecorate your neighborhood. If you thrive on extreme conditions, congratulations, South Dakota is your personal adventure course. Like I said earlier, you'll see that on this list, a lot of the things that have slowed the growth of these states is the cold weather. And South Dakota is one of those poster childs for this situation. Now, you might argue that Minnesota and Wisconsin, which are not on this list, have similar weather. I mean, very snowy, very cold. But along with Michigan, they're also major shipping locations. The Great Lakes move a lot of freight through there. So that's why people have moved to those states, especially around the Great Lakes, compared to North Dakota and South Dakota. Let's talk about the jobs. Hope you like seasonal work. Sure, tourism brings in cash, but mostly during the summer when people flock to see the presidential faces carved into a mountain. Outside of Sioux Falls and Rapid City, job options start looking pretty bleak. Wages are low, industries are limited, and if you're hoping for a fast-paced career climb, you'll probably want to bring your own ladder, because most career advancements are few and far between. Now, the cost of living in South Dakota is cheap, but at what cost? They have no state income tax. That sounds great until you realize that no amount of tax savings can make up for the lack of entertainment, culture, and career growth. Young people in search of excitement, nightlife, and, let's be honest, decent Wi-Fi often head elsewhere. The result? An aging population and a lot of empty houses. But South Dakota, where they don't get a lot of people moving in, they're definitely not losing people. Like I said, they grow by a couple percentage points every year, but they're definitely outpaced by most states in the US. But if you love the outdoors, peace and quiet, and a 45-minute drive just to see a doctor, South Dakota fits that bill. Number 6, Montana. Too big, too wild, and too empty. Montana's so massive you can fit Virginia, South Carolina, and Pennsylvania inside it. So why do they have barely a million people? For one, Montana is remote. Some small towns are so isolated that the nearest hospital, grocery store, or gas station is hours away. If your car breaks down, good luck finding help. Cell phone service can be spotty at best, making it easy to feel completely disconnected from the modern world. Now, some people might like that. Those are probably the same people that watch movies on VHS. And of course, I don't have to tell you, this is another state with brutal winters. Blizzards, sub-zero temperatures, and roads covered with ice for months make this place a travel hazard. Of course, then spring comes and adds a new twist to it. There's no snow because it's all melted and the floods start. Roads get washed out that were once too frozen to drive on. Then, of course, you wait a couple months in the summer, wildfires turn the sky orange with smoke, and you have lung problems. Of course, you also have to worry about the occasional grizzly bear. This doesn't happen all the time, but there is potential for it. There's not much of a chance of running into a grizzly bear going through your trash if you're living in New Jersey. Now, then there's the economy. It's another problem here. Outside ranching, tourism, and a small tech scene, there aren't many high-paying jobs. Housing is an odd mix of some areas are incredibly cheap, while others, especially near the national parks, have been overrun with wealthy out-of-staters buying and driving up prices for the locals. Montana offers incredible beauty and outdoor adventure, but for many, the remoteness, extreme weather, and economic challenges make it a tough place to stay. I was talking to a guy from Montana one time, and he had mentioned how, I forget, it was so funny though. They call him like 2 times something. I forget what it was, but it had to do with a lot of people that moved to Montana, spend 2 winters there, and that's enough. It's like the first one, they figure it was that cold and that frozen, and that was a fluke. When they hit 2 and 3, they're usually packing up heading to Arizona. Number 5, West Virginia. The state that time forgot. That's a real statement. I mean, I've been to West Virginia a few times in the last handful of years. It is like this place is living somewhere between the 1930s and 50s. Maybe not in Charleston. I mean, an old man like 2 years ago in West Virginia referred to the government as G-men. Nobody's used that term since the 1940s or 50s. West Virginia was once a thriving coal state, but it's been emptying for decades now. Why? The coal industry collapsed, taking thousands of jobs with it. The economy never fully recovered, leaving behind struggling towns and abandoned homes. Many areas that once had a booming workforce now resemble ghost towns, with boarded up businesses and a declining population. Factories and mines were once the lifeblood of this community, and it now sits empty, rusting reminders of a bygone era. These days, West Virginia has the highest poverty rate in the U.S., with many residents living paycheck to paycheck. Opportunities outside of mining are limited, making it difficult for people to find stable employment. The state's rugged terrain also makes infrastructure development challenging, leading to fewer economic opportunities compared to more urbanized regions. And of course, we've talked about it before, but the opioid crisis hit West Virginia hard. Entire communities have been devastated by addiction, further accelerating the population decline as families moved elsewhere in search of better healthcare, job opportunities, and a safer environment. This was a couple years ago, but I did a video on West Virginia and how so many grandparents are now raising their grandkids because parents either got addicted and had to go to jail, they died, things like that. It was really sad. This whole state, I often feel really bad about what happened to them over the last 2 decades because it is filled with nothing but wonderful people. And it is one of the most beautiful states we have. Like I've said in other videos, they really need to lean into the whole ecotourism thing, outdoor activities. I think they have the opportunity to become the next Colorado, like the Rockies, how they just draw people in for skiing and climbing and hiking and just about anything else to do outdoors. I think West Virginia's got a serious potential of becoming that next state. But that's years down the road. These days, people are still flooding out of there like the G-men are looking for them. Number 4, Nebraska, the middle of nowhere. Is anyone else surprised that Iowa and Nebraska made this list? That whole area is pretty much vacant. The middle part of America, which, people call flyover states and things like that, compared to the east and the western portions of the state, and even the south in a lot of cases, they're vacant. They might as well put a vacancy sign on the Welcome to Nebraska sign. Nebraska is the land of endless corn and even more nothing. This state is often forgotten unless you're like a die-hard Cornhusker fan or something like that. If you're looking for mountains, beaches, and any major tourism attractions, look elsewhere. Nebraska is about as flat as a pancake and just about as exciting as watching one cook. Believe it or not, even though it doesn't have mountains or anything like that, Nebraska's climate is a little game of extremes. Summers, think of an oven left on high with triple-digit temperatures baking the endless plains. Winters, delightful mix of bone-chilling cold, snowstorms, and blizzards that can shut down an entire town overnight. Then, of course, like the other flat states, this is tornado land. Now, if you're into jobs, good luck with that. Unless you're in Omaha or Lincoln, job opportunities are about as plentiful as mountains are in Nebraska. Agriculture is king, manufacturing is hanging on, and service jobs are your best bet if you're hoping to make a living in Nebraska. Career growth? Let's just say, if you have big dreams, Nebraska might not be the launching pad for your hopes or your dreams. This is another state that's had a great exodus of young adults. Young people are leaving Nebraska faster than a cow at a steakhouse. Why? Because outside of farming, there's nothing much to stick around for. Bigger states offer better jobs, livelier entertainment, and, something other than cornfields. If you're craving nightlife, cultural attractions, and a decent concert lineup, Nebraska will leave you very disappointed. So why do people stay? Well, normally it's people that have settled down, and older people. Younger people that are single, they usually tend to get out of town and they stay out of town until they're ready to buy a home, have grandkids, things like that. Great place to raise a family. If you're young, you just bail. And as the baby boomers become part of our history, which they're in the middle of right now, this state will be even more empty. Nebraska has more baby boomers per capita than any other state. Number 3, Mississippi, the most abandoned state in America. If you've ever driven through Mississippi and thought, wow, there's a lot of empty spaces here, you're not alone. That's because people are leaving the state like it's the last scene of a disaster movie. Except the disaster is the economy, the education system, and the healthcare. Let's break it down. Mississippi is where paychecks go to die. Mississippi constantly ranks at the bottom for wages, and by bottom we mean rock bottom. If the states were a class, Mississippi would be the kid in the back of the room who forgot to bring a pencil. Job opportunity? Sparse at best. Good paying jobs? Even more rare. Manufacturing and farming were once the bread and butter of this state. They've shrunken over the years. Now, unless you love minimum wage gigs or farming with outdated equipment, you're probably looking for an exit. Now, after they have some incredible universities, which Mississippi does, their education system is underfunded and it's practically running on fumes. Teachers' salaries are laughably low. Students' performance, let's just say you won't see many Mississippi high school students topping the national rankings. Without a strong education system, the state will continue to struggle to break free from the cycle of poverty. It's like trying to climb a ladder that's missing half the rungs. You just don't get very far. The healthcare? Well, good luck with that. Mississippi isn't just lacking quality healthcare, it's lacking access to healthcare, period. Now, when I say quality healthcare, access plays a big part of it. I'll never blame nurses or doctors or anything like that, unless they've been, faced 10 lawsuits of malpractice, then that's a different story. But doctors and nurses are always doing a good job. They are just always terribly underfunded, or their access is limited to the population, meaning like in Wyoming, places like that, you got to drive 2 hours to see a frickin' doctor about an ingrown toenail. Think you're having a heart attack? You drive an hour to the hospital to find out you just have gas. After the humiliation's over, you start to go, wow, I blew 2 hours of my day for that? So a lot of people end up Googling their symptoms. Crime and infrastructure are two of the biggest problems after poverty in Mississippi. As if the economic and healthcare struggles weren't enough, Mississippi also struggles with infrastructure issues that make driving feel like an off-road adventure. Roads and bridges are crumbling, and some of the communities struggle with high crime rates and underfunded law enforcement. So while Mississippi may not have the highest crime rates in the country, you're still going to want to lock your doors and maybe avoid eye contact with strangers. So why do people stay? Traditions run deep here, and the people are some of the friendliest people you'll ever meet. My biological father, my brothers, they're all from that, my sister. Outside of Meridian, spent a lot of summers there. But that's not enough to get past all its problems, in my opinion. Number 2, Nevada. Empty desert and fading towns. Nevada might be home to Las Vegas, but step outside the strip and you'll find vast empty desert stretching for miles. The state's population is highly concentrated in just a few metro areas, with most of Nevada sparsely populated. Brutal heat and water shortages make it difficult to have a life here in Nevada. Summers often bring triple-digit temperatures, and Nevada is one of the driest states we have. They're facing long-term drought issues. Outside of major cities like Las Vegas and Reno, many small towns struggle with water access, forcing people to relocate. The economy here is largely dependent on tourism and gaming, which can be unpredictable at best. When the economy dips, jobs vanish, rural areas have even fewer opportunities, with many old mining towns turning into relics of the past. For those looking for affordability, housing costs in Las Vegas and Reno have skyrocketed, making it harder for locals to keep up. The rural areas lack any infrastructure, so you got a bunch of places you wouldn't want to buy property or real estate or a home or a laundromat. It also doesn't help that about 85% of Nevada's land is controlled or owned by the federal government. So if they want to branch out and, grow something, a city, they're very limited on where they could do that. So they'll just keep expanding the Vegas metro area and Reno occasionally. All right, before we get to number 1, if you're thinking about moving to any one of these states, there's a link for Home and Money in the description area below. They can get you in touch with a real estate agent anywhere in the country. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Kansas. The state people forgot exists. Now, Kansas is a lot like Nebraska and Iowa and pretty much South Dakota. It's kind of all the same stuff. Kansas is so overlooked that even some Americans forget it exists. It's flat, has no major attractions, and it sits right in Tornado Alley. Kansas is one of the least exciting states in the country. No mountains, no oceans, barely any tourist destinations. And this means it is often passed up for moving to or visiting. Most of the state is just miles and miles of farmland, which are important to the entire country. But as far as moving there to do something or going there to see something, not much drawing people in. Of course, they've got the weather just like Nebraska and Iowa. Bitterly cold winters, frequent tornadoes, blazing hot summers. It's like a mixed bag of chaos. The economy isn't much better. While Kansas has a strong farming industry, job opportunities outside of agriculture are limited. The biggest cities, which are Wichita and Topeka, offer some professional jobs, but for the most part, the state lacks any high-paying industries. Wages are low, career growth is slow, but if you were born there, you usually come back when you have a couple kids. While Kansas does offer affordable housing, friendly communities, and a peaceful small-town life, it struggles to keep residents because of its harsh weather, weak economy, and overall lack of excitement. For many, it's just a place to pass through, not a place to stay. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. If you did, you probably like one of the 2 videos being suggested right now. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.